So unique items are some of the most godly things in the entire game. You know, you'll love getting that Shaco later. You'll love getting that Griffin's Eye if you're rocking any lightning build. Let's say you're rocking any type of Poison Nova Necromancer perhaps. You definitely want to get that D-Web. These items are super rare and super awesome for your character. But did you know actually there's some incredibly low level unique that are absolutely godly. You can find them even in normal difficulty or possibly nightmare difficulty. And they're even best in slot for some of the best end game builds. Now let's take a look at exactly which items those are right now. Now the criteria to this I kind of mentioned in the intro there. Now you have to be able to find these realistically in Nightmare, like you can actually go farm and hope to find them. Now let's say hypothetically Nightmare Bale is technically high enough level to drop in items, so let's say it's a 1 in 10,000 chance you could get it specifically only from Nightmare Bale, or some crazy like Terror Zone situation. Those ones don't count. I'm talking about normal actual drops. So first up, we're looking at a sorceress right here, and let's go ahead because several pieces of gear on sorceresses are actually best in slot and they can be found incredibly early on. So we're looking at the Magefist right here. So any fire build in the entire game, really 1 to fire skill is absolutely amazing. Here we have 20 FCR on that as well. Regenerate mana 25, and you see the required level is only level 23 now. How early can you actually find these things? Taking a look at the drop odds calculator, as early as normal difficulty, actually around like the Diablo Bale, kind of the end of normal. But where's a more realistic spot to actually go farm and find these? Well, like a lot of these lower level items, it's going to be checkout right here highlighted. Nightmare and Dariel, an absolute amazing spot to go ahead and farm for Magefist, or even Nightmare Mephisto. Next up, let's stay over on this sorceress here, and this next one is going to surprise you because it's actually a very rare item, but it is actually low level and you can find it very early. And that's actually the SOJ, the Stone of Jordan. Absolutely amazing god tier ring. Everybody is always excited to find one of these. 1 to all skills on top of that with the mana and increased maximum mana. Absolutely great for any of those casters. It's one of only 2 rings in the entire game that actually has plus to skills on it. So that's really boosting up, well, just all your skills, boosting up anything that helps survivability and a ton of damage even. Now, where are we finding this one at, Phil? Now, much like the Magefist, yeah, technically you can find it in normal difficulty. Here you see Bale and Diablo, but that's not exactly realistic. You can't really farm that up now, can you? But when we go take a look at Nightmare again, you can see Nightmare and Dariel right up there, 1 in 3,800 runs. But do notice this is players 1 difficulty with 0% magic finds, the same way I did the last example. So you can even find these on the playthrough or farm them up with incredibly bad gear. But just imagine you go back a little bit later, perhaps with a couple of buddies in the same game as you and farm it up, the probability changes drastically. 1 in under 1,000 runs, and for a godly item like that, that's really not bad odds. So there's definitely tons of other places you can find it. You see here Mephisto, or really there's just, you know, most monsters at this point can go ahead and drop that SOJ, but you see the odds are nowhere close to what they are on Nightmare and Dariel. So I would highly recommend if you're looking for one, that's kind of the place to go. The most magic find you can handle and the highest players count you can. Next up is one that's really going to help you out, and that is this like button right here. Yeah, if you don't know where you can find it at, it's actually just below the video. If you could go ahead and hit that for me. You know, YouTube algorithm and all. But anyways, and yeah, we're sticking with the sorceress once again. And a lot of these items kind of slide in at roughly the same level. Here we're looking at the skin of the Viper Magi. Now, while it does have a higher level requirement, as you can see, it is up to 57. You can find it essentially at roughly the same time as you could find the Magefist and the Stone of Jordan. It's absolutely amazing. 1 to all skills, FCR, all res on it, and even that magic damage reduced can help out on some builds. And of course, we're looking at the drop odds calculator. You can actually find this in normal difficulty, similar to all the rest of them. Bale and Diablo, Neolithak, places along those where you could actually kind of go ahead and farm it up. But really, farming Bale in normal difficulty, it takes way too long to go through the waves. So once again, we're going to take a look at Nightmare, and specifically Nightmare here. If you're trying to go ahead and get yourself a Viper Magi, you're going to be looking at actually Mephisto this time. While Dariel can definitely drop it, it is just slightly worse odds. So if you're going after one of these bosses, specifically wanting that, and maybe some other like slightly higher level items, in this case, we're actually looking at Nightmare Mephisto. But I will mention, we are talking about low level, but let's say later you're trying to farm this up just to give you the information that, you know, I think you would want really when you're looking for this thing. Here we're looking at hell difficulty, you see right here, And here it flip-flops right here. So now we have better odds here for Andariel than we do for Mephisto, and that's generally because they changed the quest drop odds, so you don't have to quest bug Andariel anymore. Andariel just always drops the same for her quest drop and for her normal drop, when Mephisto's is actually quite a bit different. The quest drop is 1 in 900. That's only the first time that you kill Mephisto with each character. And then right down here we have the normal drops. So with the new way that Andariel's quest drops are just all the time, you get the same drops, Andariel's going to be the place in Hell difficulty, and probably the best and most likely place to find that skin of the Viper Magi. So we'll take a look at something to help out those melee characters, and now we're looking at the string of ears. The belt slot can quite often kind of be like just a weak spot for a ton of characters, but man, getting 15% physical damage reduction on a melee character when you're right up in the monster's business, really taking a lot of physical hits, I'm sure. And also on top of that, getting 8% life leech. And you see it only requires level 29 and almost no strength. And a similar pattern here, you can technically find it in normal difficulty. I wouldn't recommend trying to farm it there though. I would much recommend farming it from somewhere, once again, Nightmare Andariel 1 in 1000. Remember, this is players 1 difficulty with 0% magic find. If you even bump that just up to 200% magic find with nobody in the game, that comes out to 1 in 500 runs. And as you keep going higher, you end up doing that a player 7 if you're on single player, and you can set the players count 1 in 267 runs. So you should find one in short order, really, if you're running Nightmare Andariel. Now, if any of you out there are looking for better gear, you're always going to want more magic find, right? Or perhaps you're one of those gold find barbs, but chance guards you can find incredibly early on. It's awesome to find early on. Like I said, because of that magic find, finding this good item early on will help you find even more good items along your playthrough. So the number of times I've found this on my playthroughs is actually pretty astonishing. And you see, it only requires level 15. So you can probably guess you can find this pretty incredibly early on. So usually I find them from random monsters along the way, but let's say hypothetically you did want to farm them up or get them from one of the act bosses. But this also is just a good indication of how early and how low level you can find these things. Right here we have normal difficulty, Mephisto, a little bit lower. We have even from normal difficulty Duriel. So in Act 2 of normal, you technically could find these. So if you wanted to farm these up even from normal Mephisto, I guess I kind of wouldn't blame you. Maybe you're trying to just spam farm to get the perfect 40 magic find versions. A lot of times I would recommend looking for these in Nightmare or Hell difficulty, because you're going to have a better probability of finding other better gear. But technically you could go ahead and farm these up from a normal difficulty Mephisto. So just for example, with no magic find, you're only at 1 in 800 runs here from Andariel, and you can only imagine the number of pairs of these you find if you had more of a full game like single player, you set the players count. Yeah, you're looking at 1 in 200 runs. Or on top of that, like we already noticed, you can get your SOJ from Nightmare Andariel as well. So why wouldn't you take a chance at getting an SOJ and those chance cards you're looking for? Now this one's pretty godly, more specifically for one character, the Lightning Fury Javazan, but that character is so powerful. I'm going to include it on here. Also, it is a good one, and the one I definitely throw on, the throw barbs, now that those are actually good. We're taking a look at the Razor Tail. The main thing on here is that 33% chance to pierce. Does have some dex to help you out, and I guess 10 to max damage, but really the pierce is pretty much all it is here on this belt. Requires level 32, only 20 strength. Where are we looking for this one? So pretty similar to a lot of other ones. You can actually find it in normal, but I would not recommend trying to. The more likely spot to find this, or if you want to go farm up specifically for this one item, once again, we're looking at Nightmare, and here we're looking at Nightmare Andariel has the best, followed a little bit behind by Mephisto, probably for the act bosses, the best two places. You can obviously find this randomly from a ton of monsters, but man, look at Nightmare Andariel, a ton of these lower level unique items that are absolutely amazing. This is the best spot. And once again, if you did have any magic find and raised the players count at all, you could go ahead and get this probably to like 1 in 600, 1 in 500, 400 possibly even. And there we go, 1 in 453 runs. It's really looking to shape up like if you did 500 Nightmare Andariel runs, player 7, 200 magic find, you're pretty much going to have all of these godly lower and mid kind of level unique. Now we're jumping back to the melee characters, and this one is so incredibly powerful for how early you can find it. That 25% chance to crushing blow at the top, and that's literally all on here that's really useful. But 25% chance for crushing blow, you throw this on any of the melee characters, but more specifically the early on smiters. for chopping down declone and for farming torches is astronomically powerful. It's actually bananas that this is on a low level item, only requiring level 22 to go ahead and equip these boots. And early on, especially, the boot slot can be kind of weak. Maybe you'll shop up or find some boots that have res on them, but man, adding that much damage is crazy. And we're keeping the situation pretty similar in normal difficulty. These great uniques here that are even low level, you can find them, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend trying to farm specifically normal Diablo 500 times or trying to get to Bale. It's going to be a bit of a struggle. But when we jump to Nightmare, that story changes once again here, even with no magic find on players 1 in 700 chance. Let's go ahead and bump that up to what we've been looking at pretty much all these other times. We'll raise a 200 magic find for player 7 from a Nightmare and Daryl, 1 in 180 runs. So yeah, if you want to get those suckers real quick, hit yourself Nightmare Andy once again. And then we'll go ahead and hop back over to my sorceress, and we're taking a look at another one here. Kind of goes in the glove slots. So depending on when you find this, what character you find it on, can be absolutely amazing. We're taking a look at Frostburs. Now, the main thing, and pretty much the only thing I suppose, is that 40% increased maximum mana on late game. We'll say energy shield sorceress is here. It's just behind me. Maybe you can see it a little bit. 1700 magic right there when you throw the gloves on. Boop, it pops over 2000. So you can see how that can really help you out. That's a ton of extra mana early on. It can kind of, help you out with some mana problems. You do have a little bit of an issue there. So how early can you find these Frostburs? Well, the situation continues. You generally probably aren't going to want to farm these up from normal difficulty, but while you can find them from there, we can see Nightmare is a much better situation with Andariel with no magic find once again. Do recall, this is 1 in 500-ish runs right there. Mephisto's not far behind either. But yeah, once you turn this up, oh boy, from Andariel, you got a 1 in 131 run chance to get those Frostburs. So that's some solid odds, my friends. And like I mentioned on some of the other ones, the belt slot can be a little bit of a weak point. So if you find something that's going to help you find even better gear along the way, much like the chance cards here, it's going to help you out with the gold wrap. So if you're an endgame magic finder, in instances, this can be your best in slot option at the belt. Now this one is requiring a level 32 to go ahead and equip it. So how early are we finding this? Man, I'm starting to sound like a broken record here. Now, once again, you can find it in normal difficulty. You're not generally going to want to farm it up from there though. When you are farming it, once again, you got about a 1 in 700 chance here from Nightmare and Darl. And also, once again, Nightmare Mephisto not far behind. But if you go ahead and bump that up with a little magic find and players count, here we're looking at 1 in 180 runs. So that's kind of why Nightmare and Darla can be absolutely amazing for going out there hunting that SOJ super early on, and also really stacking up and making sure you get each and every one of these godly low level items that can really help out even your end game characters. So hit the like button before you go, because the video is over. But before you do, hey, this video right here, check this one out, man. You're gonna love it. It's another Diablo 2 Resurrected video.